I just watched Demon Slayer Infinity Castle and oh my days, it was amazing. Round of applause Ufotable for that beautiful animation. This was 2 hours of non-stop action. I just know those animators ain't seen the light of day in months, but it was worth it because they produced a masterpiece. And as a former Demon Slayer hater over the years, you know the classic, oh, it's carried by the animation. I have to give respect because this final arc has been really good story-wise. But before I get into this video, here is your fair warning, I will be discussing the plot. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, click off now. But without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so this movie covers 3 major fights, and the first one is Shinobu versus Doma. So what happened was everyone had got dropped into the Infinity Castle and was either in pairs or walking around on their own. And Shinobu was just walking around on her own, you know, exploring a place as you do, but keeping her guard up. And then out of nowhere, she stumbles across Doma, who is the upper rank 2 demon. And Shinobu realizes that this is the same demon who murdered her sister way back in the day. So now that she has come face to face with her sister's murderer, she is ready to get to scrapping. And what makes it worse is that Doma is taunting Shinobu, saying how he's so sad that he never got to finish off her sister because when they fought way back then, the sun was coming up and he didn't get to eat her. So yeah, Shinobu is ready to crash out at him, and their fight starts off very good. She goes straight to stab him in the eye, and she gets off some poison on him, but Doma counters pretty quickly and renders her poison useless. And I can't lie, it was looking very bad for Shinobu because she definitely does not have the strength to cut off Doma's head, and it looks like her poison really isn't all that to Doma anyway, if he can just decompose it and counter it straight away. And while Shinobu is feeling very defeated, she gets a vision of her sister and remembers her mission, and that is to kill this demon by all means necessary, which gives her the strength to stand up, and she starts popping off, weaving in every direction, which makes her way too fast for Doma to read. And then she unleashes her final attack with her strongest poison, but unfortunately it still wasn't enough to take Doma down. And so he's holding her, and Doma just starts crying and hugging her and saying, damn, like you tried so hard. I genuinely can't tell if he's trying to take the piss or if he's being serious, but whether he's being serious or not, he's still disrespecting her because she really did go all out on you, and you're talking about some, oh, you tried so hard? Nah, that's disrespect. And as Doma is midway absorbing Shinobu, her student pulls up to the scene, and now she's tweaking after seeing what's happened, but it's already too late and Doma has absorbed Shinobu. So we're only 30 minutes into the movie and it's already 1-0 to the demons. But the next fight that happens is Zenitsu vs Kaiaku, and this fight has quite a bit of backstory compared to fighting. Like, the actual fight is quite short, but to put it simply, before becoming a demon, Kaiaku was the student of the former Thunder Hashira alongside Zenitsu, and on all accounts, Kaiaku was the best student and next in line to be the Thunder Hashira. But his ego got in the way, and he didn't want to work alongside Zenitsu and share the successorship of the Hashira. And Kaiaku refused to help Zenitsu, seeing him as weak because he could only use the first form of thunder breathing, whereas Kaiaku could use them all except the first one. So hey, if Kaiaku had swallowed his pride and had been friends with Zenitsu, then maybe things would have turned out differently and they could have helped each other master all the forms. But now they face each other as enemies, as Kaiaku has become a demon after his encounter with Kokushibo. But yeah, the fight itself was pretty short. Kaiaku was showing his stuff, you know, using all the forms combined with his blood demon art, and he was cooking Zenitsu, I'm not gonna lie, because he was still going for his one trick. And when Kaiaku gets the upper hand, he starts taunting Zenitsu, talking about, oh, he's so weak, he still can only use one form. But out of nowhere, he absolutely speed blitzes this fool and uses the 7th form of thunder breathing, which he created himself, and kills Kaiaku in one shot. Round of applause to my boy Zenitsu, he finally locked in. And honestly, this goes to show that pride always comes before the fall, because Kaiaku thought he was so much stronger and could never lose to a guy like Zenitsu. But Zenitsu is not the same crybaby that Kaiaku once knew. He's a changed man. So hey, that's 1-1 now. Both the demons and humans have lost a member. But the last fight that's covered is the one we've all been waiting for. Giyu and Tanjiro versus Akaza. And genuinely, I'm at a loss for words. This fight was so insane. So what had happened was Akaza pulled up on them and they pretty much immediately get to scrapping. Tanjiro has improved so much since they last met and is actually able to cut off Akaza's arm and cut his face. And Giyu is going toe to toe with him. The animation in this fight is insane. But let me not get distracted. Akaza and Tanjiro come face to face and Akaza is talking smack about Rengoku, saying he's glad he died that night because Rengoku had no more room to grow because of his stupid values that made him want to stay human. And Tanjiro is pissed after hearing that. So yeah, they get back to scrapping immediately. But of course, Akaza gets the upper hand on him and grabs Tanjiro's sword, which looks like it's about to break, but Giyu comes in with the save and stops Akaza before he can break Tanjiro's sword. Then Giyu locks in and starts going nuts on Akaza. His speed and strength have increased and Tanjiro can hardly keep up. So while those two are fighting, Tanjiro's trying to think of a way to beat Akaza when he remembers something. Back when Akaza and Rengoku fought, Akaza could sense Rengoku's attacks, which made him easier to fight, even when he couldn't see them coming, because of Rengoku's fighting spirit. And of course, as someone is getting more angry and has a deeper intent to kill you, it was easier for Akaza to sense that attack. So the fight basically became easier for him as Rengoku was getting more tired. And this made him remember that Inosuke could do the same thing, which is why he has another flashback where Inosuke is explaining that when someone disguises their intent to kill, he can't really sense that, which gives Tanjiro the idea that maybe if he can hide his intent from Akaza, then he can get the jump on him, which he does try to do, but it wasn't fully enough to catch Akaza off guard. But after this, there's another flashback where we see that the Hinokami Kagura dance is perfected when the performer is able to complete the movements of the dance perfectly with maximum effort, but is absent-minded in a way when they're performing it. And Tanjiro had seen this lesson best in action when his father killed a bear in the blink of an eye while disguising his own intent to kill the bear. So essentially, with the correct breathing and movement, his father was able to see the transparent world, and it's why Tanjiro was able to dodge that attack by Akaza just before. And so with that knowledge, Tanjiro is able to cut off Akaza's arm, but this time he does it without him noticing and thus saves Giyu. And because of this, Akaza realizes he needs to go all out, so he uses his final technique and unleashes an omnidirectional barrage on Giyu and Tanjiro. Giyu tries to block it with Dead Calm, but still gets hit a lot and is pretty much on his last legs right now, whereas Tanjiro can see the transparent world in full and is able to avoid a majority of the attack. And after the attack is over, Akaza thinks Tanjiro is dead because he cannot sense his fighting spirit, and now he offers Giyu the chance to become a demon. But little does he know, Tanjiro is behind him, and Giyu is like, please finish off the job, obviously saying that in his head, but then Tanjiro just shouts out saying, I'ma cut off your head. And in this moment, the way I face palmed was crazy, but Tanjiro had a plan, because even though Akaza was confused at how Tanjiro was still alive, he thinks he can still sense Tanjiro's movements, but Tanjiro's fighting spirit can't be detected, and that gives Tanjiro the upper hand, and he is able to cut off Akaza's head. And even Akaza can't believe it. He's confused, like, how did he outspeed me and hide his fighting spirit within the span of this fight? Which is why Akaza isn't done yet. Even without a head, his body continues to fight, but as his body is about to kill Giyu, it's stopped by this woman in spirit who calls him Hakuji, and another flashback plays of Akaza's life before he was a demon. He was a boy who wanted to become strong to provide for those he loved. He grew up very poor and couldn't afford medicine for his father, which meant that he had to rely on pickpocketing. But often, when he was caught, he would be beaten, and because his father could see that he was such a burden on his son, he ended up killing himself in the hopes that he could relieve his son of the burden and that he could continue to live a normal life, not having to worry about the medicine anymore. But this made Hakuji even more upset. But then he ends up getting taken in by this guy who owns a dojo, and he reforms Hakuji, having him look after his sick daughter. He also teaches him how to fight, and they build a very close relationship. And he also gets very close with his daughter within the 3 years that he was looking after her. And after that time, they were set to get married. But before this could happen, the two of them were murdered by a member of another dojo. And once again, Hakuji had lost the most important people to him. So he pulled up to that other dojo and killed 67 students there. That's a pretty insane crash out if you ask me, but hey, his reaction is his reaction. And after this, he was walking out on his own when Muzan forcefully turned him into a demon. And after that, he lost his memories and became fixated on becoming stronger. And after that flashback is over, we get back to the present, where Akaza's head is halfway grown back, and he's about to kill Giyu, but Tanjiro wakes up and is gonna cut off his head, but his sword slips from his hand, so he has to punch him instead, which reminds Akaza of what he felt when he was first beaten by Keizo, the guy who took him into the dojo. And this causes him to question himself and his action. And as his bodily instincts tell him to kill the two of them and continue living so that he can get stronger, Akaza himself admits defeat and refuses to heal. And so he unleashes a technique on himself and kills himself in the process, bringing an end to the fight. What a crazy ending. And for once in Demon Slayer, I am genuinely happy with the execution of a backstory, because I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the times they have a backstory for the demons where they try their absolute hardest to humanize them and make us feel bad for them, but a lot of the time they just miss the mark in my opinion, because it's not every single demon who must be humanized and who we must feel bad for. But Akaza's in particular was well written, it fit really well within the story, it didn't feel forced, it wasn't too long as some people are saying. I genuinely loved it. And all around within this whole movie, the animation was outstanding as per usual. But I also have to say, the voice acting was fantastic. I watched it in sub, so you guys who watched it in dub, let me know, was it good as well? And the other two fights that took place in this movie were really good as well, because they had real meaning and purpose behind them. Like Shinobu out for revenge, Zenitsu wanted answers. Like, it makes the fight super engaging when there's a meaning behind it. The only thing I didn't really like about this movie was it felt like Tanjiro was kind of able to master such a complicated technique in the middle of a battle, because to get to the transparent world, you have to disguise your intent to kill and have perfect breathing combined with the right movements, if I'm understanding it correctly. But considering who he's fighting and the pressures of this fight, it's crazy that he was able to figure it out and execute the technique perfectly. Because Akaza is the same guy who Tanjiro desperately wanted to get revenge on. So for him to disguise that intent to cut off his head, and of course Akaza not being able to detect his fighting spirit, feels a bit like an arse pull, I'm not gonna lie. But other than that, I have no real complaints. The movie was peak and definitely worth watching. I just hope that we get the next movies soon. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, and let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments. And I'll see you guys next time.